So, let's start out by printing the black flash layer first, and then using the two different ways to print. Now, this is a larger image, so we're going to print it with a larger printer. We go to print with preview mode. We have to change our print with preview mode or our page setup to a larger printer's page setup. I'm going to use an Epson 2200 printer to print this design. An Epson 2200 printer, the new version of the Epson 2200 printer is called the Epson R1800 printer, but the Epson 2200 printer is about a year old. It's what we use in our shop here. The Epson 2200 printer can print 13 inches wide by 19-inch sheets, or 13 inches wide. You actually put it on a roll and print is up to 100 feet on a roll. But this image is a larger image, so we're going to go page setup. We're going to select our printer to the Epson 2200. Hit OK. And that's going to give us different page sizes. The size of page we're going to print on, the size of film that we have today is 12 by 18 film. And then we're going to want to print it, since it's a landscape image, we're going to want to change it from portrait to printing into landscape. Hit OK. So now we can see our image on the landscape film. Now, this is what you call a spot color design, meaning that there's no fades, there's no shadows, there's no blends of the ink. It's a very, very basic text, not text, but logo or cartoon image. So we're going to be probably printing this on a 110 or a 155 mesh screen. Being that we're printing it on a lower mesh, we're going to use, instead of using the Photoshop registration marks, we're going to use just simple plus signs. So I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to come add our plus signs as a new text layer. You want, once again, at least 3 to 4 plus signs. Now, you don't want to use super big, bulky plus signs. You're going to want to use probably, more fine-tuned text if you're going to use plus signs. Maybe something about this big. Oh, excuse me. And you want to position those on the image, away from the text, away from the image, in 3 to 4 areas. So once our plus signs are on there, we're going to go to print with preview mode, make sure it looks okay. We see that our image is here and we see our plus signs. Now, when we print we have 5 copies of this film to print out. Each color has to be printed on a separate film. So we want to leave these plus signs once again on the same spot on each film. I have to stress that. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to use your print settings and print modes to achieve the best quality film. Now, since we've transposed this image into a black image on a clear background, obviously we have to have a very black film. I'm going to give you guys some examples of black films later. But right now, as we're working on the computer, I'm going to show you how to change your print settings, for your printers to create the blackest films possible. Now, right now, we are using an Epson printer, Epson 2200 printer. Now, our company definitely recommends using Epson printers. The higher-end Epson printers for the larger format, like the Epson R1800, the Epson 2400, or the Epson 4800. Now, these printers can print larger formats. They have the ability to be able to print a halftone, which we'll talk about once again later at the end of this section. But the higher-end Epson printers are better for printing. Obviously, if you want to create a larger image than just a normal 8.5 by 11 or 8.5 by 14 sheet, you're going to need a higher-end Epson printer. Now, once our image is ready to print, we have a black image on a clear background or a white background that's going to print a black image on our transparency film. Now, the transparency film, which we're going to cover in a second here, is we have a black image, so we're going to want to have a black, very black image on our transparency film. Now, I'm going to show you guys some different options of films to use, but I'm going to first show you here, since we're on the computer right now, how to select your printer settings to achieve the blackest films possible. Now, today we are using, you can use all different types of printers, but the more higher end printer you use, the better image you're going to get. Epson printers, for instance, are awesome to use when printing film because they're photorealistic printers. They print photos. That's what they're made for. So you have a lot of setting changes in the Epson printers that you can change settings. You can make them print higher density of ink levels to create darker images on your film. Right now we're going to print this image, as I mentioned before, on an Epson 2200 printer. So, printing a basic text image on an Epson 2200 printer. This is pretty much the same thing for the Epson, like Epson R1800, which is the new version of the 2200, and the Epson 2400, which is also a little bit higher end version of the R1800. So, you're going to select your properties. Your properties are going to give you the option to choose what kind of ink density, what kind of output paper you're going to use. So, you're always going to want to select best photo. That means the printer is going to print the highest quality resolution possible. Also, you're going to want to select your paper as being, basically with Epson, I'm not sure if it works the same way with HP or Brother, but with Epson, the further you go down, the more ink it lays on the paper. What we found works the best with printing Epson transparencies is using a premium glossy photo paper setting. So, if your printer has a transparency setting or a transparency paper selection tool, we actually found using the premium glossy photo paper, selection works better than using a transparency selection. For instance, this one, the Epson 2200, does not have that transparency mode, so we're just going to select premium glossy photo paper. One thing that we're also going to want to do is go into the advanced settings here and then change it to print with black ink only. By doing that, we just select, it says print black ink only here. Just check that button and then hit OK. And once again, go into properties. We always want to select best quality photo. We want to make sure that we select premium glossy or glossy photo paper, and then we want to print with black ink only. Now, let's say we're going to use, we have another option, and I'm going to show you guys those printers in a second here, an Epson R300, which basically an Epson R300 is a small version of the 2200. It only prints 8.5 by 11 inches wide, but you can print 8.5 by 11 inches wide up to 14 inches. Now, I'm going to select the R300. If you notice here, when we go into the properties, the settings are going to be a little bit different. We're still going to pick best photo, but if you notice, there's an inkjet transparency setting there. Now, like I said, for some reason, when printing on the inkjet transparencies, we realized that it works better when you're using a premium glossy photo paper instead of the transparency setting. For some reason, when you're printing transparency setting, the printer tends to band. So you're going to want to select premium glossy photo paper, then go into advanced settings, and black ink only, hit OK, and then you're ready to print. So basically, I'm going to go through this design one more time, one final time, to show you guys, start to scratch, how to print this design. We're going to print the white flash player first. We'll unhighlight that. Then let's print his skin tone. Print with preview, make sure it shows up okay. Hit print. Then we're going to unselect that, come down here and print his clothes, print with preview, make sure everything shows up okay, print, once again keeping the registration marks, whether using the Photoshop registration marks or the text plus signs, keeping them in the same spot for each layer. And then we're going to print the chalkboard, keeping the registration marks in the same spot, and then the black trap layer. Once everything is printed, you're ready to start exposing your screen.